All right, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Facilities Talk with the Froelich brothers. Today we have two special guests from Cardinal Local Schools in Middlefield, Ohio. We have the Superintendent of the school district, Jack Cunningham, and the Operations Manager for the school district, Dave Krebs. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I want to roll right into this, guys. It's very loose. It's very easy going. Want to hear your opinions and your experiences on how you have, continue to grow the school district and make it what it is, a very important part of your community and extremely impressive school district. And it takes great leadership and a lot of hard work. So to begin, Jack and Dave, how long have you been with your school district and how did the school year go? Now we're in the summer month.
Yeah, so I just finished my third year here at Cardinal Local. And Dave, I know it's finished just like 3.5 years. I think it is 4 years coming up. So we kind of came in together a little bit. Dave's a little before me, but a lot of stuff has been happening here with Cardinal over the time that we've been here. Busy always. This is really our first summer that might be a normal summer considered in a school district because of all we call it right sizing and projects that we've been doing to catch up here over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I see that. Website's pretty impressive. So looking at your profile, Jack, you've achieved quite a bit. Specifically since 2017, it looks like you guys got a nice amount of levies and bonding and got a lot of things accomplished for the school district. Tell me a little bit about those projects and how they've made a positive impact for you.
Yeah, in 17, we actually was able to pass a new money levy here at Cardinal that hasn't happened in quite some time. And then we were actually able, that my first year here, to renew that levy bond issue with what we were doing. So excited to do that our community that approved that, because sometimes, those don't go how districts want those to go. We were also able to do a bond issue, I think in 2002, I think it was, and build a new middle school. And that money we've been able to get out in front of that and actually paid that off early. So this past year, we were able to take that off. So it was a relief for our taxpayers as well. So we're trying to do things the right way, be transparent for that way, but we're also realizing that we're trying to be proactive. So just like a lot of districts in Ohio, enrollment is decreasing. So we recognize that. And when I got here, we were operating 4 academic buildings plus a board office. So today, after this last summertime, we're operating 2 buildings and a board office that we have been able to kind of right size and consolidate and auction off a couple buildings, but still provide a great quality program and educational experience to our kids and our community. So we're excited about that. So we're trying to be as proactive as we can with that. Right sizing our facilities, right sizing our staff, doing those type of things. So just recently, last summer, we closed an elementary building and moved over. We really have a campus really that was a K-6 building now, which is the old middle school. And then our high school became a 7-12 building. But it's on the same campus. It's separated by the football stadium. So it's kind of all inclusive to what we're doing. But I got big ideas and big things, but I can never do anything without Dave here sitting beside me. So Dave is instrumental in what we do here, facility-wise, building and grounds-wise, and then anything else that he's asked to do. So he brings a huge background with management, construction, and doing those type of things. And, him and his staff, man, top of the line. I've been a few places. They're any better than what's happening here at Cardinal under Dave's leadership. So Dave can tell you a lot of projects that we've been doing that I always ask to do, and he gives me that look and then does it. So.
That's fantastic. Jack, that's awesome. Hey, what a great boss, huh, Dave?
Yeah, he is a great boss.
Appreciation is very important in this world, especially when you guys are, working as closely as you are in something as important as a school. So Dave, thank you, Jack. That's fantastic. I really appreciate that. Dave, tell me a little bit about what Jack just touched on. Your day-to-day is obviously pretty busy, a lot on your plate there. How do you go about managing that, Dave?
Yeah, so I want to start off. I think one of the biggest things that makes Cardinal unique from other districts is so many of us are involved with every project. Example would be last year, about a month before school started, Jack come to me and said, "Hey, I need one more classroom." The building was a middle school building, so we converted a locker room to a classroom. Well, he was part of that project the whole way from start to finish. And I don't think you have that at other districts. So it helps. I have a great team, a lot of support on a daily basis. It just makes it a lot easier when you have a team rather than one on his own island.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And that's just from the side of feeling that team effort, right? You're tasked with handling it. Jack knows what needs to be done, right? But he's going to a guy that he trusts. It's not, delegation just by telling you this is what it needs to be done, go do it. You guys are together in your efforts, working in concert, focused goals. That's important. And it's really cool that you guys have that. And the future obviously looks bright for your school. And one of the things I took away from your website, and I can feel it just over this camera, this meeting that we're having, this interview, is the pride. The acronym that you guys use. It's not just used; it's demonstrated just in this short period of time we spent together. Tell me a little bit about that, the pride of Cardinal Huskies, and how that impacts the school district and the community.
Well, I'll say this, Tommy. It's Dave and I sitting here, but we're just kind of pieces of the puzzle. What the pride about what's happening here is this community is unique in how it supports our district and how they come out and always rise to the occasion about things that we're trying to get done. And we try to communicate that and be as transparent as we can with that. And I'll tell you this, nothing gets done from Jack and Dave unless our Board of Education is on board with that. And our board is outstanding. They are well versed in what's happening in our district and in our community. So they're not just board members, they're community members. They sit on other organizations and are involved in all the village things that happen here. So this whole place is kind of a unique place to me about the support and the way it's tangled together from everywhere. So we try to communicate that not only to them, our community knows what we're doing, our staff knows what we're doing, and we're trying to just really accentuate and get the most we can out of everything that we got here. Because if you drive by our campus and you stop over by the fields, which overlooks, both things, it's one of the most beautiful scenes you'll see anywhere. And it is all natural and it's all hands and boots on the ground type of work from everybody here. So that's what's kind of unique about what it is. But again, from our board down to our staff and our community and our kids, they should know what's going on around here.
And alumni that don't even live here anymore. They live across the country. They're still very supportive of Cardinal.
Yeah, Dave said that. So we put something out. One of our alumni asked, "Hey, what can we do? What's something you need there?" And they put together a little campaign, and we got some alumni that donated $100,000 to redo our chemistry and biology lab. So we're putting that in right now. Dave and his group are organizing that, so we're able to do that. So, like I said, I'm glad he pointed that out. Our alumni are strong here, and they're involved. And when we ask, there's always somebody that raises their hand that does some things, and we're excited about doing that and continue to partner with that. And same with our business. If you haven't been to Middlefield, it's an industrial hotspot. So there's industry here all over the place. And, through our Cardinal Corporate Collaboration Business Advisory Committee, we're building that out. And we got businesses and manufacturing companies here that are really invested in our kids and our community. And, again, when we ask, most of the time we get somebody that raises their hand to help.
That's awesome. That really is. One of the main goals with this podcast, Jack and Dave, is community. So we have the opportunity to reach, others like you in similar fields, not only schools, industry as well. And this message that you guys are delivering, I think it's going to be powerful. And I think this episode is going to mean a lot in reaching our goal, because people that are in the facilities field, they deal with challenges, and sometimes you can feel like you are on that island, Dave, you're dealing with things on a daily, and sometimes you wake up and you don't know what to expect. Things that happen along the way, and it's instrumental that you're working together to make sure that the day goes smoothly. Because if the air conditioning goes out and it's 97 degrees, children still need to learn. Roof starts leaking. Somebody needs to contain that area. You can't have a slip and fall. So, how do you guys kind of start the day with that in mind? Do you talk about the what ifs, or do you just know going into it, we're ready for it?
So we go into it ready. Every day we start our work day. But if something major happens, Jack always knows. He's one of my first calls, obviously, unless I had to call, emergency service. And then I take it from there. The only example I have right now, Jack, on that would be the first week I started my job here at Cardinal. We had a 100-year storm and flooded our elementary building. So I was dealing with about 6 to 7 inches of water rushing through that building. And my team jumped on it right away. We got it contained, cleaned up the best we could until we had to call in the outside sources.
That's
Yeah,
a
so
great
I think it's
example.
important that Dave talks. His team are on call. So even though they're assigned to a building or doing something, if something happens, I mean, those guys are there and they never ask any questions. It's what I like about our staff here, especially our custodial staff. They never ask questions about why or what. They just, what do you need us to do? So it's never, no, I don't do that. No, I can't. It's always about, yeah, we'll get it taken care of. And whenever Dave calls or somebody calls, they definitely answer. So that's, again, unique. And then I know a lot of districts and custodial staff do those type of things. But us being so small and everybody understanding that we're small, everybody wears a lot of hats here. So it's never, is that my job or is it not my job? It's about, what do you need? And yes, let's go get it done. So it's pretty special.
And that all stems back from the pride and the trust. Jack and I are both very transparent with everyone employed here at Cardinal. So, like Jack said, they never ask, but when the time is right, then we'll talk about it. And I will actually tell them, hey, the reason you were called down there is because we were dealing with a school flood and we needed this to happen before the outside contractor could come in. But it's always a yes.
So you have buy-in, right? Full buy-in from your team. And it starts at the top, the transparency from the leaders, right? Letting them know expectations ahead of time so that they just can act. Do you find that you end up with a more flatter organizational approach with that? People take ownership, your team takes their own ownership. They don't need to be told. They see it, they understand the situation, and they attack it because of that transparency and that level of trust. You see that a lot in your district.
I mean, we hope that's what it is.
Yeah.
So we try to portray that. I'm sure I don't all the time. So sometimes maybe I get ahead of myself. But so yes, but we try to portray that and be as transparent and communicate as best we can. But when we have people that need something, they know what the goal is. So our custodial staff, they know what the goal is. Our board always comments, community always comments about, man, that building might be built in 1956, but it is well maintained and can't believe the inside of how it looks with our, cleanliness and, upkeep with the facility and painting and all that kind of stuff. So we always are, trying to do the best we can with what we have.
That's fantastic, gentlemen. Yeah, I actually go through 422 to get some work. I live in Cleveland area, the east side of Cleveland in Shaker Heights, and our office is in Girard. So I take 422, and one of the reasons why is because of Middlefield. I mean, it's a beautiful area. It's one of those places in Ohio that kind of, when people not from Ohio picture it, Ohio, that's the town that kind of comes to mind, right? That just
Yeah.
home setting, kind of picturesque with the movie feel to it. Uh, Tell me a little bit about how you guys, you mentioned it already, but how do you include the community in the pride of the school district? Is it through the sports programs? Is it through, the board members? Is it through the maintaining the buildings to make sure they look as good as possible? Is it through student programs? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the best thing for our community to see is our facilities, right? So they show that we're taking pride and are communicating. Hey, when we're doing something, we let everybody know that's happening. Either through the board meetings, through presentations that I do. We have a couple of committees called, one is Supporters of Cardinal, which is a group here that kind of works through the community, lets things know people what's happening. Sports is a huge draw here at Cardinal and most districts as well. So we have a lot of communities in our facilities in the gymnasiums and in the field and in the stadium. So when they see that, we want them to know that's happening. But we also want them to know what we're doing to upkeep. So when we do need an ask, because eventually districts need more money because we have the flat revenue source, right? We don't get to do it. That's what we get. But just because we're flat doesn't mean the state of Ohio and the country is going to stay flat because schools need it to be. So things are always increasing. We want people to know that we're continuing to spend our money as best we can and being on our facilities and our staff so that we can provide the best possible scenario for our students and our families here. So heck, with the new state budget and all that stuff going through, it's even going to be more frugal about what we're trying to do. So, we're pretty nervous about what that's going to look like for public education moving forward. But, we're going to have to adapt and move on. And, in places like Cardinal, it's a property tax heavy district, right? Our community has to do that. We don't get a lot of funding from the state of Ohio. So it puts a burden on our taxpayers and to do that. So we will absolutely want to make sure that they know what we're doing with that. And if they have questions, they should be able to come and ask. But we want them to see how we're spending money and how we're trying to provide the best service for kids and families here.
So another thing we do here is like we said, transparent year round, social media, however, letting the community know. And then every year right before school resumes, when Jack come here, he brought a thing back. We call it the Back to School Bash. It's open to the whole community. Everything's open, all the buildings, everyone can see it, hands on. Jack and I are both there, ask us questions, anything they might need, but we open the doors and bring them in.
I'll tell you what else is good, Tom, and I don't know how it's been before I got here, but our relationship with the village has definitely increased. And, we consider them a huge partner for the district with the mayor's office and the council there. So being able to do that and being able to work together because they're a huge voice for us for what we're doing. And we definitely appreciate that. And we definitely want to make sure everybody's proud about what's happening at Cardinal.
That's fantastic, gentlemen. I think that this message that you're delivering is consistent across the board. And I'm sure if I were to go throughout the community and knock on doors and ask these, members directly the way we are here, I bet the message would be pretty similar. I have a feeling that you guys created something special and you're continuing to build something special. And I don't think for a second that you guys aren't going to accomplish any of the goals that you set out to accomplish. On that, how did 2024, 2025 school season go for you as far as those goals? Did you have specific goals in mind, and were you able to achieve them?
Oh, yeah. That was a huge summer for us last year to get started this time last year because, like I said, we closed our elementary building, which was a K-4, and moved everybody and everything that we needed over to the current K-6 building, which was a 4-9 or 4-8 building. And then we also had to take those 7th and 8th grader staff and material over to our high school. So that was a huge transition time for us, well planned out, and it was executed by Dave and his team. So huge support from our board because we had a lot of moving parts last summer, a lot of things that popped up that we didn't think we were going to see or had to deal with, but was dealt with pretty efficiently by Dave and his group. And it's been smooth, but there's been some bumps in the road along the way. So the beginning of the school year was tight last year, but as the year went on, it became smoother and smoother, and we are extremely looking forward to opening this fall as something that's been kind of normal. But man, just like anything else, construction is construction, and moving, and you're still talking about buildings and when you're moving around. So we had issues that came up, along the way, we had some chiller issues in that newer elementary building that we had to deal with. We even had a CO leak or something that happened we didn't know about. So, those are just things that you have to be ready to deal with. And hopefully your emergency management plans are up to date and everybody's aware of those type of things and you can do that. So luckily we were able to, do that and, you know, work it out along the way. But man, was it smooth? I think it was smooth, but we definitely had, when you're dealing with people, not everything's smooth. And what's smooth to me is not smooth to everybody. So, especially when you're dealing with teachers that expect a lot of things, which we want them to do, they want things a certain way. So when it's not that way, they want it that way. So we definitely want to make sure we're sensitive to that and try to make sure our best to get them what we need to do. Now, Dave might have a different opinion about that because I was just watching. He was dealing with all that stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like Jack said, the things that might be smooth in my world or Jack's world might not be smooth to another. So I want to go back to the CO leak we had. What we had is on a boiler, 2 million BTU boiler, we had a dampener fail. So when it failed, it stuck wide open. It dumped all exhaust into the building. Well, we didn't know about it till the morning of school. So the kids were on the bus. I got the call. Jack got the call. Jack and I were both en route. By the time I got there, Jack had diverted the buses to the high school gymnasium. Once I knew everyone was safe, I went in with the fire department. We got evacuated. So in all reality, that might have been traumatic to someone, but with everyone being safe, that was smooth to me, if that makes sense.
And hey, luckily our head custodian was there. He kind of got the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Right. So he got the brunt of it. So he was kind of our guinea pig to see that. So.
He was opening the building. He got a little looped.
So again, quick management. Our building principal was there by that time, making calls, working that out, making everybody aware. And then we found there was a flaw, right? So and then it ended up costing the district a lot more, but we didn't have CO. What are those called? CO indicators, stuff that are built into our system. So, our board acted quickly and said, well, what about the other buildings? They all don't have it. So that's an unexpected expense that we ended up doing through our alarming company and security to putting those detectors instead of in rooms in our current system. So it automatically goes off.
So now there'll never be a time we don't know because it gets dispatched right to the fire department. There will never be an opportunity for someone to walk in the building and get CO poisoning.
That's fantastic. And one of the things that seems to be a big topic in our episodes is technology, especially with the school districts that we've had the pleasure of having on our podcast, is technology being kind of, to the point of introduction, right? Because it's expensive, so you can't just go out there and pick luxury items. It's very specific for need, such as, the CO monitor, PDFs, things like that. Can you tie in the whole kit and this and that? How have you guys gone and kind of, handle the technology within the school district in order to make it safe, make it modern, what have you? How do you kind of approach technology?
We absolutely try to do that. I mean, technology is always changing, sometimes not for the better either. So we try to write some grants. We do some safety grants. I know Dave's been big into getting some safety grants to do that. We upgrade our monitoring system, our camera system. We got weapons detection technology on our systems, which is really outstanding and is a relief to me and should be to our community because it can detect a weapon in a parking lot before it comes in without much going on. So we definitely appreciate those things, but it's always changing. So what's good today is not good tomorrow, and it is expensive, absolutely expensive. So again, another thing that, again, we're flatline funding. So we don't get new funding, but everything else around us is rising and needs are coming. So finding and being creative to be able to do those type of things is a huge challenge for us, for sure, and I'm sure for all public education. So, yeah. But
That's exactly it. No, Jack, you nailed it. Expensive, right? You can't just go out and pick and choose based on, luxurious ideas. It's specific to needs and meeting those needs and safety, right? Safety driven technology that's going to, make sure that
Well,
this.
yeah, like we always say that the health and safety of our kids are our number one priority, right? So if they don't feel safe coming in, there's going to be no learning going on. If our staff don't feel safe coming in, there's going to be no teaching going on if they're preoccupied with worrying about that. So that is our number one of our number one objective is the well-being and safety of our staff and community. So we try to do that. We have a lot of things that are in place. Sometimes we have things that are in place that maybe we don't want people to know, so that we can have those type of things. So, but that's always on our mind. We're always looking to upgrade and do that. I know one of our building principals, he is a fanatic about safety, so he's always looking. So, which I appreciate because sometimes that's I'm not thinking that way. So,
That's great. Yeah, I know, Dave. You probably see things as far as safety goes daily, right? You're basically put in charge of a team of people that, if they're not operating safely, that could really be a detriment to the school district. One slip and fall, one hazardous issue can turn into something that nobody wants. So, Dave, how do you lead your team to make sure that they're operating as safely as possible?
One of the biggest things that I do is in the summertime is we do teamwork. Okay, so if I have one guy working on a ladder, I always have another one around working together. I think that's the safest way possible. Now, sometimes in a normal school year, that's not always possible to have, the teamwork going on. But the biggest thing has always been successful for me is teamwork.
That's great. That's fantastic. Making sure there's two individuals. I think that always makes a big difference right away. Someone's going to be focused on the job at hand, and the other needs to focus on making sure they're doing it as safely as possible. That's excellent. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. One thing I like to close on, especially with our school districts when we have the opportunity to interview them, is what's your major goal or something that is talked about the most leading into your upcoming school year?
hmm. Well, I think our major goal when we're talking about facilities is where are we, right? What do we need to do? What's next? And how are we going to stay ahead of what the curve of that? So be proactive, try to be as less reactive as possible so that we could see that coming. And like I said, what's been unique here at Cardinal is we've been doing that for the last 3 years because of, reorganizing, right sizing, and looking at our stuff. So all of our buildings and facilities have really had some attention to it because of us having to move around a little bit. So I think our goal is to just now settle in and really look at our long-term plan. We have a nice capital improvement plan that we're looking at 5 years down the road about what we're trying to get done and doing those things. So, with roofs and parking lots, which, I mean, I don't think community members realize how expensive that is to do a roof and a parking lot. It's not the roof of your house. So you're talking about major, major money and funding going to do those type of things that really people don't understand that's a necessity to have. Unless there's huge potholes and then they're complaining to me about what's wrong with that parking lot. You should fix that, right?
Right.
So, but trying to be proactive with that so that we don't have those issues is a big challenge for us, but we're always trying to make sure that, trying to keep our facilities as top notch as possible.
And the roof of a building is the most important part of the building. Like Jack said, someone will complain about a pothole in a parking lot. Meanwhile, the roof's leaking. They don't understand what actually that's doing to their building.
Yeah, that out of sight, out of mind element. It can be tough to manage, absolutely, and it's a matter of scale. How many square feet do you have? That's what's going to drive the number. It doesn't matter, what type of system you're looking at. There's many different systems to look at with all different components of a facility. At the end of the day, your building is X amount of square feet. You need to make sure that it's watertight. You need to make sure that it's efficient, right? It's holding the heat in, it's holding the air conditioning in. The envelope is extremely, important. And that's great. And it sounds like you guys have a really good handle on it. Preventative maintenance, right? Those are the things that we preach on a daily. And it's something that it costs pennies on the dollar, right? Compared to a replacement, you're talking $15 a foot. To properly maintain it, talking 5 cents a foot. It's an amazing thing. And now you can extend the life by maybe double the life expectancy. Now we're talking about cutting out a life cycle cost. These are things that are, to us, we get it. But sometimes when we start talking to people who don't feel it on the daily basis, on a daily regular basis, it might not hit the mark, right? But it sounds like you two are, about that, the long game, being proactive, not reactive. That's going to continue to make a huge difference for your school district.
Well, I like that analogy of the replacement or the maintaining cost.
Yeah.
Please you send that to us, right? I need Dave to start using that.
Yeah. So Jack and I are always talking about things like that. Last year, we're working on sections of a high school roof right now. Last year, we started talking about our elementary is 20 years old now.
Mhm.
So we need to be looking in the next 5 years at starting to do those roofs on that building, whether it be coating, whatever it might be. You still cannot forget the building's 20 years old, even though to us it's our newest building.
That's great. Benchmarks, understanding where it's at in the life of it, because it's an asset and it's one of your best assets. It really can be. It's going to add value when taken care of, when properly managed. You're increasing the value greatly by making sure that the most important assets of your building are maintained, understood. Where are they right now? Where will they be in 5 years? If you can answer those kind of questions when it comes to the major assets of your building, you're light years ahead of the majority of the other school districts out there. And I can say that confidently. So that's fantastic, guys. But
Yes.
gentlemen, I know you two are busy, and really appreciate having you on our podcast. I think this episode is going to carry a lot of weight. People are going to click, they're going to check it out. And I think this one stands out for all the right reasons. So I really appreciate it, guys.
Well, thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us for sure. And anything else you need from us, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. So that concludes our episode with Facilities Talk with the Froelich brothers. Please like, follow, and subscribe, gentlemen, and check out some future episodes. We'd love to have you continue to keep up with us. So thanks again, guys.
All right. Thanks for
Thanks.
having us. Go Huskies, right?